Hello, ladies. Welcome to Girl Talk for the 80s Babies, a place where we, as girls, get to chat and reflect and just, be in a space that is safe, where we have opinions and less of a filter, if I can say. I actually changed it from being unfiltered because I think there are moments when we need to be filtered or have a little bit of a filtration system going. But for the most part, I think we live in an age where we have voices. We have voices. We are in an age where we can critically think for ourselves, no matter what form of religion or faith we follow. At the end of the day, yes, it shapes how we think, but it doesn't take away the fact that we can still critically think. And this week, I really, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little bit unscripted today because I really wanted to speak about with the upcoming Freedom Day, which is the 27th of April, a day where, as South Africans, we were able to vote. Non-white South Africans were able to vote for the very first time. And what changed in that moment has had such a huge impact on all of our lives. And, as I was preparing for this episode 2 weeks ago already, I didn't realize that I was going to be feeling this emotional about this topic today as I'm recording it, because such a lot has actually happened in my mind in the last 2 weeks. That is a topic for another day. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But it just, in my preparation, I, thought of the things that literally changed with an X. A mark on a piece of paper changed where, as a colored girl, I could go to school. It changed where I could live. It even changed. I remember as a little girl, this is actually so far. I think this is like one of the memories of my childhood that sticks out to me more than anything. And it scarred me in a way that it actually still triggers till today. Where 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 I was driving. Well, I wasn't driving. My dad was driving, and we were driving along the beach, coastal road, some other coastal road. And you see all the beaches, and you're driving past. And I said to my dad, "Oh, let's go to that one. That one looks nice." And my father said, "No, that one isn't for us." And as a child, you didn't understand, but at the same time, you also think to yourself, like, okay, that isn't for me. But then why was I born this way? Why was I born? Why couldn't I have been born white rather? So that I could also go to that beach. As a 5, 6-year-old child, this is what you think. And I think of, for instance, the opportunities that people of color had in the sports arena. 1995, South Africa, for the first time, was able to take part in the Rugby World Cup, and we won. And Chester Williams was one of the colored rugby heroes of our time. And as a colored child, you were represented in a rugby team, a World Cup winning rugby team. You, as a colored child, were represented for the first time. And last week, I did an episode on the beauty standards. And a friend of mine, you know, who listens to me every week, and she will always send me the most nicest commentary on the podcast. And she, I said to her that it was not just this. The impact of apartheid was not just, you know, what you were told you were not or what you were told you were. When you are not represented in spaces that you were told are not for you, then it affects what you think is possible for yourself. And so, for instance, when Amy Kleinhans won as the first non-white Miss South Africa, it unlocked something so powerful in all of us as little girls who did not have the right hair texture, who did not have the right color. Our noses were flat. Little girls could dream that they too could be a Miss South Africa one day. I think I was 11 years old when she won. And it changes your perspective of who you are. And my mother-in-law, who was also, very, very much into beauty pageants, she was a participant, a semi-finalist in what was then called Miss Africa South, because there was no space for women of color in Miss South Africa. That was only for white girls. So she was a semi-finalist in Miss Africa South the year that Annelien Kriel won the Miss South Africa pageant. And so this separation, this distinct separation based on ethnicity, is something that is so ingrained in our society as South Africans. As people of color, we recognize these things for what it is, or for what it was, let me rather say, because I think the miracle of South Africa, yes, I'm not going to go into all the politics of the dream that didn't turn out to be as wonderful as we all had hoped or thought it would. But the opportunities that it opened up that was not there before is undeniable. 1996, Barcelona. Our athletes could go to the Olympic Games for the first time. Colored boys and girls could run on a track with people from all nations. They could be seen for the first time as valuable, as good enough to represent their country. And we are at a critical point in our time as humanity not as a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a whatever religion you choose. As human beings, we are at a critical point in our humanity where we need to think, what is the legacy that we will leave for our children and grandchildren one day? What will our children and grandchildren tell future generations of what we stood for at this critical moment in human history? And this is something that has been on my mind and on my heart the last 2 weeks, because I feel that we are living in a time where we actually just need to stand up for something more than ever. And what is happening in the Middle East right now, it affects all of us more than what we think. I mean, this war has affected me financially. You know, one person makes a decision to start something that affects literally everybody. I mean, you cannot go and put petrol in your car and think that this war doesn't affect you. But what it has done as well, and I really, really thank God for this, it has exposed something that we all knew was happening, but it allowed a space for something to be exposed that was not, I think, as blatant before. I know there are some of us who've always known what was going on, but I think for some people, it's almost as if, you know, it's this new revelation, and it's actually not. But it made me think, as a Christian, it made me think, what do I stand for? And we are way past the debate of land and who's not land, and we're way past that, because even in South Africa we have the same issues about whose land it is and whose land it isn't. And you know, that is not even the main issue. The land is not even the main issue. But as a mother, as a human being, never mind a mother, just any human being, male or female, to see the atrocities on both sides. I'm not taking sides now. I'm speaking just as a human being, seeing with my own eyes. Whoever is doing what, whatever. To see these things, and for it not to be, I don't even want to say upsetting, because upsetting is not a good enough word. I don't have the vocabulary to describe the outrage. There's the word, the outrage. To not be outraged about this says so much about you. It says a lot about you. Look in the mirror, and if you are not outraged at what you see is happening, then that says so much more about you than anything else. Let's be self-critical now. And this is the journey I was on, because as a Christian, I had to think to myself, I need to be critical of my own beliefs right now. What did Jesus stand for? What did Jesus stand for? If I'm a follower of Jesus, do I think that my God would treat people like this? And I think as South Africans, who lived, okay, I only lived under apartheid for 14 years of my life, but for our parents and grandparents who lived through this, having the dom pass, piece of paper to say where you can and cannot be, different entrances for you and for them, different, I mean, in Palestine right now, there's different roads that people can and cannot drive on. As South Africans, this should trigger us so much because our experience of this is only 32 years ago. Only 32 years ago, South Africa lived in apartheid reality. And how quickly we forgot that, the words that Mandela said at that moment in South African history, he said, South Africa will never be free until Palestine is free. In whichever way or form you believe that is going to happen. And look, I'm no activist. I am by no means a politician where, I have tools to like mobilize people and go and march. I know what it is to march. I marched once to Parliament. And I just think that we are just living in a time where we really need to self examine and ask ourselves, really now, not the cliche, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? And how would we feel as South Africans, colored and black and Indian South Africans? If the world had kept quiet, if the world had just put their heads in the sand and just did not come to our help and assistance, what would we have done if no one stood up for us? Where would we be today? So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I feel helpless. I said to my husband yesterday, I feel helpless because it is just something that it seems so impossible to overcome. But I pray that God is, and I know that God is busy. God is busy doing something. Okay, so within saying all of that, what can we do? What do we do? But let's just, if nothing else, can we at least just create awareness that it is not okay to just idly sit by and allow human suffering to continue for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the tools. I don't have the tools. All I have is a voice. All I have is a voice. And all I can say is, may we in this moment, never mind your race, never mind your religion, never mind your ethnicity or whatever. But for the sake of humanity, can we just self reflect, self examine, critically think of where we stand on this issue? I literally had to take a minute. I just had to take a moment to gather myself. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And if this message resonated with you, as I always say, please feel free to share with friends. Please comment. Please like and subscribe. And I am so excited to be doing this journey with you all. So until next time, stay bold, stay beautiful, and keep talking.